Hi folks, are you here to welcome me back from sabbatical? Well, wait a little longer, because I'm enjoying this. The pressure to perform has never been lower, and I am living, laughing, and loving, which, for an American woman, greatest possible achievement. Okay, if you're on sabbatical, why are you doing this video? Because I want to. We're bringing back an oldie but goodie. Everyone's asking, no one's asking. Where I cover a corpse-related caper everyone has been asking about, and in return, you have to listen to a story that I'm interested in. Both of these stories do have a theme, and today's theme is, why is that dead body in a cooling apparatus designed for food and beverages? We'll start with a topic you were all very anxious for me to cover on my sabbatical. Caitlin's Funeral Court, Cadaver Crimes Edition, back in session. Now that's just kinky. No, it's a gavel. Never mind. Cruise ships, they're in the news. Whether it's this 9 Circles of Hell, or the around the world drama-filled voyage, or that thing where everyone is trapped on board pooping their brains out. The prevalence of how often everyone ends up trapped on board pooping their brains out is probably overrepresented in my mind because it's so vivid.
Violent episode of vomiting.
But a new fear has been unlocked, as they say. The deceased gentleman who was allowed to decompose in a Celebrity Cruises drink refrigerator.
Celebrity Cruises is being sued now by a Florida woman who claimed the company improperly stored her husband's body after he died on board the ship.
Robert Jones and his wife MARILYN Jones of Florida, the Florida Joneses, book a celebrity cruise, specifically the Celebrity Equinox. Ports of call, beautiful Puerto Rico, and other destinations in the Eastern Caribbean. On August 15th, 2022, Mr. Jones has a cardiac event, presumably some form of heart attack on board, and dies. A 2020 study in the International Journal of Travel Medicine and Global Health found that falls and cardiac arrests are the main causes of deaths for passengers on cruise ships. So Mr. Jones dies, and here is what MARILYN Jones, his wife, claims is said to her by Celebrity Cruise personnel. They come in all sorry for your loss, may his memory be a blessing, etc. And then they say, you have 2 options, ma'am. Number 1, you and Mr. Jones's body disembark right here in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Or we have a morgue here on board the ship. Mr. Jones can stay safely in that morgue for the next 6 days. You can also stay on board for the next 6 days until we all get back to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. In my opinion, I believe this really happened. Celebrity Cruises was likely aware that just rolling Mr. Jones's body off the ship into Puerto Rico like, good luck, sorry about the cruise, is not the best PR look. But more importantly, getting the body brought back to the mainland US had the chance to be hard and expensive. Yes, Puerto Rico is a US territory.
Praying for the people of Puerto Rico.
So that makes things logistically easier, but only to a certain extent. Allegedly, representatives from Celebrity told the Jones family there was a, quote, 50-50 shot that instead of going straight to a San Juan funeral home, Mr. Jones's body would be taken in as a coroner's case. Then he'd have to have the official autopsy, then he'd go be embalmed at the funeral home, then the transport permits would have to be filed, and then finally they could fly his body home. A family member would have to be questioned and wait with his body the whole time, and who knows how long all this bureaucracy and those steps would take. So instead of doing all that, you can just stay on board. Hang out with us for 6 more days, have some Mai Tais. We'll make sure you get home to Florida. Here's the thing, I think that's good advice on behalf of Celebrity. The couple had been married 55 years. Let the Celebrity Equinox act as your husband's funeral ship, carrying Mr. Jones on his final trip home. And if that was what happened, there would just be good customer service in a family's time of need. But allegedly, that is not what happened. What happened was a maritime tort. Tortious maritime interference with a dead body. 6 days later, the Celebrity Equinox pulls into Fort Lauderdale. Onto the ship comes a transport person from a local funeral home and a deputy sheriff from Broward County. Now, where is the funeral home, this removal person, expecting to go? They're expecting to go somewhere that looks like this. A cruise ship captain named Kate McHugh put this very helpful footage online illustrating a cruise ship morgue. I believe she's actually a captain for celebrity, so even more helpful, not the captain of this ship. To be fair, at least I don't think. I'm not coming for you, Kate. But that is not where they found Mr. Jones. He's not in the morgue, he's in a cooler on an entirely different floor. And this is where things start to go south. And I don't mean south in a fun cruise to the Caribbean way, south in a maritime tort way. Here comes the funeral employee and the deputy sheriff rolling the cot along the hall, diddly-dee, and they pull up outside a drinks cooler. There are drinks stacked up outside, and inside is Mr. Jones's body in a bag on the floor, lying on top of one of those wooden storage pallets. Again, my opinion, but this scene appears to be giving, we told the family we could store the body on the boat, but something was wrong with the morgue, so we improvised and cleared these drinks out of this cooler and just brought him here and put him on the floor. He's refrigerated? It's the same thing. Unfortunately for celebrity cruises, it is not the same thing. As a side note, I always like to remind you that the dead human body is safe. But at the same time, I hope that is not a fridge commonly used in food service. This is not a mass fatality situation where all the refrigeration must be commandeered for the good of our nation. This is one elderly man you were supposed to have morgue refrigeration for. Most important, the fridge was not cold enough. Mortuary refrigerators are ideally kept at near freezing, just over 36 degrees Fahrenheit, 2 degrees Celsius. The Celebrity Cruises drinks cooler, one suspects, was not at 36 degrees. The original lawsuit says that when they found Mr. Jones, quote, his body had expanded with gas formed from decomposing. His skin had turned green, and with the intubation tube still remaining in his mouth and down his throat, there was blood splatter on the inside of the body bag Mr. Jones had been placed in, which they believe had been purged out of the tube due to his advanced decomposition. They take Mr. Jones's body to the funeral home, and at the funeral home they say, "This body is too far decomposed. You can't have an open casket funeral." I don't know exactly how much decomposition had taken place, and you always can have an open casket, especially for close family members, even if some decomposition has taken place. I believe that should be the family's choice, not the funeral home's choice. But I understand the complaint. The Jones family wanted to have a big open casket funeral and not tell their community, sorry, Dad looks sort of green because the cruise ship put him on the floor in the drinks cooler. Who wants that conversation at a funeral? So, the Jones family has sued Celebrity Cruises for $1 million for depriving them of the chance to have a funeral, or tortuously interfering with, quote, plaintiff's last memories of Jones, which has caused extreme trauma by visualizing Mr. Jones's body horrifically decomposed. Now, what does Celebrity Cruises have to say about all this? Well, mostly deny, but they did say something telling in their response. They said the mental distress of the Jones family at this situation is, quote, typical of natural grief resulting from the death of a loved one, and not the result of celebrities' actions. Really? I'm sure the family is sad that Mr. Jones, the man, has died, and that's natural grief. But it also seems like there are some unnatural, extenuating circumstances here, too. I don't think every family imagines Grandpa horrifically decomposed on a cruise ship. It's not a universal feeling we all share. In simplest terms, the dead body, by law, is not a human, nor is it property. So MARILYN Jones, his wife, can't say, you hurt my husband, or you hurt my property, by leaving him on the floor in this cooler. But what MARILYN Jones can invoke is her right of sepulcher. It's her right to not have anyone interfere with or delay her having a funeral for her husband Robert's body. A good example of this is the case of Guth versus Freeland, where a woman named Barbara Akiona died at Maui Memorial Hospital. After she died, the hospital transferred Akiona's body to their morgue to be refrigerated. But when the mortuary came to pick her body up, they discovered Akiona's body outside the refrigeration unit. Bloated, purple, eyes bulging, tongue swollen. It's a very similar case where one party was supposed to have refrigerated a body, allowing the family to have an open casket funeral, and that refrigeration didn't take place. Do I think this whole thing could have been a mistake on behalf of celebrity? Yes, mistakes happen. Bad refrigeration happens. I don't think they want to be dealing with this. They probably thought they were doing something with their drinks cooler hack, but mistakes can still be torts. And you are a giant cruise corporation. You have insurance. Just give the Joneses some money. To wrap it up, say, sorry, here's some money. The lawsuit, as of right now, is still ongoing. And now, we move on to No One's Asking. And no one has asked me about this story from a year ago. And frankly, I'm a little disappointed. Let's take you to Peru, where 26-year-old Julio Cesar Bermejo is hanging out at an archaeological site with some friends, getting drunk. He has with him a big red food delivery bag from a company called Pedidos Ya, which, as I understand it, is like the DoorDash or Uber Eats for the South American market. Because Bermejo seems drunk in public, the police stop him and go, "What's in your bag there, son?" And they unzip the Pedidos Ya delivery bag, and inside, it's exactly what you'd expect. An 800-year-old mummy. First reaction, this guy has stolen this mummy. He's probably part of a black market trade in ancient human remains. He's trying to sell the mummy. No, it's much stranger than that. The man does an interview on TV, claims his father obtained this mummy 30 plus years ago, between 1980 and 1990, and her name is Juanita. Quote, "It sleeps in my bedroom with me," Bermejo said. "There's my bed, the TV set, and next to it, there's Juanita. I take care of it. It's like, if you'll pardon the expression, as if it were my spiritual girlfriend." To recap, Juanita is Bermejo's spiritual girlfriend, and he's just brought her here to the park to show his friends. The question is, was Bermejo trolling? Is it some sort of mental illness? I think it's possible he was neither. His relatives arrived on the scene and said, "Yeah, this mummy belongs to our family. We tried to sell it to some museums, but couldn't get a good offer." They're basically backing Bermejo up that this is just the family mummy. But what about the "she's my girlfriend" part? Something I noticed is that this happened in Puno, Peru, which is very close to La Paz, Bolivia, which is where they hold the Fiesta de las Ñatitas. I wrote about visiting the Ñatitas in my second book. This area of South America has pockets of people with fascinating relationships with the dead. It's often a combination of indigenous practices and the Catholic Church. The Ñatitas, for instance, are skulls that are not family members of the people who possess them, but unknown skulls they adopt from cemeteries or medical colleges. They give the skulls new names, new personalities, and use them as intermediaries to the beyond. They make offerings and take great care of the skulls, asking for help with love, money, health. The idea being the skulls will advocate on the living's behalf. The Catholic Church doesn't love this, but it's still a thriving practice. Using a mummy as a spiritual girlfriend, and Bermejo said, "I take care of her and she takes care of me," this is not a wildly different practice or set of beliefs from the Ñatitas. My old friend Paul Koudounaris has researched and photographed the Ñatitas in Bolivia and the mummies in the region over the border in Peru for years and years. His response to this was to not be surprised. He told me there's a town just outside of Puno where I went to a man's house and he had 5 mummies. This really isn't considered that big a deal in some of these places. So, is it not a big deal? It's a tough question. I'm big on consent, the dead not becoming deputized into being emotional support mummies when that may not have been what they wanted. But I'm also big on cultural relativism and understand my point of view is very North American, very a-religious, and I'm not here to tell people within a culture how to feel about the use of dead bodies for this purpose. Well, after they found her in the Pedidos Ya bag, they took Juanita away for testing. And it turns out Juanita was between 600 to 800 years old, alive during the Inca Empire, and also the mummy of a 45-year-old man. As many people, including a specialist from the Ministry of Culture, have said, this is a Juan, not a Juanita. The Culture Ministry has taken the mummy away, claiming it is invaluable cultural heritage. And I think this is for the best, personally, but I hope Bermejo has found another form of support and companionship, spiritual or otherwise. that's it for today. Going back to sabbatical, I would say leave your suggestion below for everyone's asking, no one's asking, and you can. But honestly, it's more of a feeling thing, like a vibe, like it has to happen naturally, you know, you can't force that. Okay, I'll see you guys soon, or I won't.
Not exactly smooth sailing. Tonight we're learning more than 150 people fell ill on board a ship.
The symptoms included diarrhea and vomiting.
They haven't told us too much about it, but we've found out from other sources.
Everything that's touched has to be touched by a crew member who's wearing rubber gloves.
Norovirus outbreaks are surging on ships, and record numbers of passengers might be behind the issue.
61 confirmed cases of coronavirus.
Everything was fine until the first night.
It didn't matter what you were eating on there, it wasn't safe.
Her vacation was canceled and she's out nearly $6,000.
As we continue to see mortgage rates climbing, the prices of rent of primary residences climbing, it illustrates that people are having to get creative to figure out affordable living situations.
Some are taking on roommates and some, well, selling their house altogether. And how about living on a cruise ship?
A cruise ship was damaged after crashing into a pier in Jamaica during a storm. The passengers were then stuck on the island for hours.
A couple thousand people just out in the field in the pouring rain and no shelter, no food, no drinks. I think there was one toilet.
Oh my God.
It got battered by ferocious winds and waves, leaving passengers anxious and outraged.
I have never been so scared.
They were told to stay in their cabins as 9-meter waves battered the ship.
A broken down cruise ship caught in the middle of a huge storm off the coast of Norway.
You can see in this video just how rough the seas really are.
Video shows cruise ship passengers hit by flying deck chairs during a storm.
Some of the first-hand accounts from passengers are really quite terrifying.
I'm really concerned about the captain's judgment in this situation.
A luxury cruise ship with fares as high as $33,000 is stuck in the freezing Arctic with more than 200 people on board.
It was billed as an epic adventure of a lifetime. One minor issue, though. The organizer apparently has no ship.
It looked like a scene from The Exorcist in my bedroom.